Hey guys, today's episode of the Craving Consciousness Podcast is a solo episode. I am going to talk to you guys about why speaking to the dead is not evil. I'm covering several little topics here in this episode. Basically, who told you that? I'm covering the common fears and misconceptions around speaking to the dead. I am sharing the different levels of speaking to or receiving information from the dead. And I'm going to talk about different types of channeling and different types of mediumship, and also the benefits of mediumship, all in this solo episode. The reason why I'm covering this topic is because so many people are afraid of opening up to that. So many people have been taught and programmed that this is something bad, so that either when it starts happening around you, or you hear about it, or if you hear something along the lines of like me talking about my Awaken program, then a lot of these people, or they see my YouTube videos, and I get tons of people leaving derogatory comments because they get fired up. Their fears show up, and so then they want to leave like comments on videos that I talk about talking to the dead. So the first thing I want to talk to you guys about is it's not evil, it's not bad, and it's not wrong. I get so many people messaging me too, if it accidentally happens with them, or if they have an experience with speaking to the dead, whether it's their dead person or a random dead people, reaching out to me like, oh my God, something's wrong. Please help me. I don't want to be possessed, right? So I want you to stop and think right now. Who told you that speaking to the dead was evil or bad or wrong? Who told you that? And you get to, these are great questions when you start doing self-development, is asking yourself, who told me this with any topic? And so then I want you to think about that. Was it your parents? Was it your religion? Was it just the fact that religion has been saying that it's bad for so long, right? And now I want you to ask yourself, do you think it's evil? And if so, why? Why do you think it's evil? I want you to use your critical thinking and ask yourself, why do you think that it's evil or bad or wrong, if you do? And some of these common fears and misconceptions are things like possession, right? Becoming possessed, or going to hell, right? Being in trouble with God, being in trouble, being a bad person, doing something wrong, right? We're programmed to behave, to follow the rules. So speaking to the dead goes against some of what we've been taught is right or wrong. So immediately you might be scared that you're going to break a rule and the consequences that come along with that, right? Which is, a lot of religion will say you're going to go to hell. Some common fears are having your house become haunted if you speak to the dead. Some common fears are having fears about safety if other people in their home, like their children, right? For example, if I'm working with an adult, a lot of times their questions are around, are my children safe? Or a lot of times people find me because they're having activity in their house and they're afraid that something's going to happen with their children, or they reach out to me because some things are going on with their children. But in this episode, I'm going to stick to why talking to the dead isn't evil, and I'm going to talk about these common fears and misconceptions here. So, for example, possession, right? People are scared to open up to communicate with the dead because they're afraid that they will become possessed by that dead person, or possessed by something negative. Should you just dive in and do mediumship? No, right? An example would be, if you've never driven a car before, would you just jump in a car and start driving and get on the freeway? No. But if you learn and educate yourself about these tools or these topics, then you're going to be able to use it properly, and it'll be a more valuable experience for yourself, a more valuable asset for yourself, to you and others, right? So when we develop into this ability, that's when we learned how to use our tool, and we learn all about why, when, and where, and why we do mediumship. And we learn all about the protection measures so that you're not just going to be opening up to something that's maybe lower level. So like in my Awaken program, I'm always teaching my students to connect with their vibration or higher, right? But that's a whole other topic in the actual program. But possession. So when we know how to use our tool properly, we're not in danger of possession. Going to hell, that's another common fear or misconception. So when we decide, there's a couple different sides here. Say we decide we want to develop into our mediumship, right? This is when we're starting to open up and thinking differently about religion, thinking differently about the word God, right? A lot of us spiritual people say God, source, the light, the universe, infinite intelligence. There's so many different terms for what a lot of people say God is. So you're going to, like, if you're going to dive fully into and wanting to be into mediumship, you're going to broaden your perspective of what this God is. And you're going to broaden your perspective of heaven and hell. There's a whole other freaking topic, right? I could be on this podcast forever. We're going to go into that. But basically, you're not going to go to hell by talking to the dead people, okay? You're not really breaking this rule when you're doing it properly. You're not going to, you're going to be doing this for the right reasons. You're not going to be going into this spiritual realm to do an evil bidding. And if you are, then you're just in the darker side, and you're going to stay in that lower vibration. 99.99% of the people I work with, right? 100% of the people actually are here for personal growth, right? And learning more about them. And then the people that are scared of things being haunted, again, if we're developing, we're going to use like all these tools, and we're going to understand how to manage energy in our home, right? We're going to learn how to manage energy. We're going to learn how to be the boss of our energy. We're going to learn how to be the boss of our environment, and make sure we have the tools to make sure our environment is healthy and at a high vibrational state. And we're also going to know about how to educate the people in our home, including our children, on how to remain safe. And we're going to educate ourselves knowing that our children are actually safe. They're just as powerful as we are when it comes to this ability. And a lot of times more so, they're still more open, right? I do want to talk about the different levels of speaking and receiving information from the dead at this point in the podcast too, because when I was saying there's two sides, there's this side of, like, if you're developing mediumship, and there's this side for the majority of the people probably listening, that they desire so much to hear from their past loved ones, right? They're dead people. Even like super very religious people that do believe they're going to go to hell, or do believe that it's bad or evil to speak to the dead, they still would love to receive a sign from their loved one. They still would love to have some sort of communication. They don't necessarily maybe call it speaking to the dead, right? So different levels would be seeing signs like feathers, seeing birds, bugs, especially right after death, hearing songs. How many of you guys get the songs? Different dead people communicate in different ways too. Maybe I'll talk about that in a second. Seeing their reflection by a picture in the glass of the picture that you have of them, or swearing that you see them in the corner of your eye, or if you wake up in the night and you swear you saw them standing in the living room where they used to always stand. These are just these short little blurps where your conscious mind got out of the damn way, and you were able to receive some sort of message that your loved one's okay, or that your loved one is giving you a sign, like your favorite song came on, or maybe you smell their cologne, and then you notice that a song is on and there's some message in there for you. Dreams. How many of you guys have these dreams of your loved ones? This is a great place. This is like the astral realm, the fourth dimension. It's when your conscious mind's out of the way, right? And your past loved ones, dead people, are able to kind of come through and pop into your dreams. What a blessing to have those. So these are all just random experiences. Do you think those are evil? Right? Some people maybe do, but it goes further. You could go into full on mediumship, right? And that's when we go into full on mediumship, that's when we're getting so much more information. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute too. Back to the possession part. Okay. Can dead people get inside your body? Absolutely. Yes. Am I scared of it? Absolutely not. Has it happened to me? Absolutely, it has. But again, when we're developing, I teach you guys the tools so that you can manage your energy and communicate with all the dead, that no, that's not how it's going to work. And so when it happened to me, I was already doing mediumship. I was actually doing a mediumship reading at the time when it happened. And if this is in my book, by the way, this little bit of the story is in my book, Your Freaking Amazing Gifts. Because it was such an astounding experience, like a shocking experience that I had, that left my client's mouth drop open. So if you guys want to read this story, it's in there, but I'm going to share it with you here too. I was doing mediumship already, and this reading was coming through, and the client, the alive person, was there, and she wanted to know how her dad was doing. At the time, her dad was alive. He is now in spirit, but at the time, her dad was alive. And so I'm very clairvoyant. And so her grandma was there, and her name was Marge. Her grandma was there in spirit, right? So her grandma was floating above my head to the right. I could feel when the dead can come into the area, and I don't necessarily see them with my eyes open, but I could feel her, and I could feel where her energy was. And so she was part of this reading. Okay. My client was asking me about her dad. I probably could have received the information without Marge being there, this in spirit, right? And so I was seeing clairvoyantly her dad, the way her dad looked, the way her dad felt. I could feel his body be heavy, and that he was moving lethargically. And I see that there's stacks of stuff all around, and he's like sleeping on the couch. And so it looks like he's like decided that he's not using his bedroom anymore, right? Well, Marge wanted me to say he's sleeping on the couch. And so I'm describing to the client what everything looks like, and the client's validating. And then whoop, Marge decides I'm not saying it fast enough. And so all of a sudden she gets in my body, and I'm like, and he sleeps on the couch. My voice changed. I was like, what the fuck? And so I just shook her out, right? Like, shake her out. And then she pops out, and I immediately communicate directly with her. And I'm like, that was not freaking cool. Don't do that. So my client sitting there, her mouth is dropped open because my voice completely changed. And the funny part of this story, and the reason I always will remember her name was Marge, is because my voice changed to like Marge Simpson's voice. My whole voice changed. And so I was like, oh my God, I sounded like Marge Simpson. And she's like, well, my grandma's name is Marge. And I'm like, that's hilarious, right? So maybe that was a coincidence. Maybe it wasn't. Probably wasn't me thinking Marge Simpson, right, at the right time. And it certainly was Marge, right? That got into my body. And here's the thing, then I got to recreate what we call a boundary, and let all the spirit world know that that's not how I want to do mediumship. I don't want mediumship, them to come through me. You could use me. You can give me information. You could, I could see, hear, feel, and know what it is that you want to, so that you could send it to me, just your frequency, and I'll pick it up. But you're not allowed to utilize my physical body. You're not allowed to get in at all. Do some mediums allow the dead to use their bodies? Absolutely, yes. Some do. I think, I believe, didn't Sylvia Brown used to let people come through her, and then her voice would change. It'll put a little bit of stress on your body. A lot of mediumship is about self-care, because you are letting a lot of energy come through you. A lot of, sending them back away, closing up your doors, your energetic doors. But yeah, some mediums do allow the dead to use their bodies. That's the way they like to do it. Some people do trance channeling, right? Where they let them completely use their body. And the trance channeling is like when you kind of take a back seat. So you're almost like not conscious, and you're just totally letting that dead person or other being, we'll talk about that too, take over your physical form and utilize it until it's done with its channeling, until it's done with its message. And then, then it comes out, and then the medium like becomes more conscious again. And then of course there's that physical mediumship, which I was talking about, which was what happened to me. The dead person popped in, used my voice really quick. And then I was like, you're out of here. Right. I wanted to also talk a little bit about, actual dead people. Right. And, reincarnation, because I know that this question will come up from you guys listening to this. And I've talked about this a few times, my disco ball theory. So I believe there's no such thing as time or space. Through all the times that I've been working with spirit, there's no such thing as time or space. Do I believe in reincarnation? I believe that all of our lifetimes are happening exactly at the same time. Only right now I'm conscious of myself as Brandaleen, here on planet Earth. Whereas all of my like other lifetimes are happening. This is what's cool about developing mediumship too, because then like, I don't want to say there's a wall between your lifetimes, but let's just say you start having more experiences of your other lifetimes, and knowledge gets passed forward and backward. We're always talking about healing our generational line, right? If we do the self-work, then it's going to heal our generational line. Like our children won't have to suffer with, the trauma that we had to suffer with, that our parents, that comes down the pike, right? So same thing goes with like, when we're developing mediumship, it's like, again, I don't want to call it a wall, but you start to, you learn something in this lifetime, and you're able to connect to the other lifetimes and something along those lines. Or suddenly, like when I suddenly had this knowledge of different plants and like what they would be good for. Or I could see a crystal and not know the name of it, but be like, I know that would be good for this. It's like coming from a different lifetime. Like I didn't learn that in this lifetime. Is a knowing, right? It's just this knowing that comes across. So again, let's go back to that disco ball. Like the disco ball is you, and all of the sparkles are all of your lifetimes, and they're all happening at exactly the same time. So if we're talking about speaking to a dead person when we're doing mediumship, right, we're really honing in to that one sparkle on that disco ball. That person, or soul, I should say, is experiencing all these other lifetimes exactly at that same time. So we're just honing in on the essence of who that person was when they were alive on this one little chunk of the disco ball, if that makes sense. So essentially we're just honing in. So think of it this way, 365 days on our calendar year. Think about all of those days as a lifetime, right? But you're just looking at today's date. But they all exist, right? And it's all okay. So that's my theory on dead people. So when these dead people come, and I'm talking about mediumship, right? Actually inviting them to come to you. Or when we develop mediumship, a lot of times then your mediumship light gets really bright, and then you'll start maybe attracting random dead people versus your dead people, the ones that belong to you, your past loved one. And some of these random dead people will find a medium sometimes for the craziest stuff. I've had random dead people come through and just be like, I really miss shoe shopping. And you're like, okay, and what else? And they're like, that's all. They really just want to share some random message. They just want to be like, hi, or they want to be acknowledged. Or some will come to you, random dead people, and give you a message. This happened to my students a lot. I don't necessarily operate this way, which is what's cool about mediumship, is you can operate in so many different ways according to what it is that you want. I could change my mind and decide that that's how I do want to operate, right? Get random people coming to me, but I don't. So some of my students will have random people come to them, give them a message. They don't even know who this message needs to go to, right? It's this dead person's like, tell Susie to be safe today, or, tell Susie to buy the black car. And, you'll just like, I don't know who the hell Susie is. And later that day, you'll overhear somebody talking about buying a black car and find out her name is Susie. And then it's up to you. It's not your responsibility, but it's up to you if you want to go, oh my gosh, I have a message from spirit. Do you want to hear it? I love how that rhymes, by the way. And most of the time they say yes. And then you could say, I got a message from someone, a spirit. Maybe you knew if it was a man or a woman, maybe you knew what it looked like. Maybe you knew their name. And then like, buy the black car. And Susie would be like, oh my God, that's crazy about my grandma. My grandma used to have a black car. And it opens up this whole conversation for Susie's wanting to buy this black car. So it's cool that there's different messages, right? So there's different types of dead people too. Like I was saying, dead people that belong to you, random dead people. If you're wanting that experience when you develop, right? I'm not, should you just hang up from this video and be like, all right, dead people? Hell no, don't do that. You definitely need your foundation. But if you get a sign from your freaking loved one with a butterfly flying by when you're thinking about them right at the same time, or a song or a dream, that's all freaking fantastic. But there's also there's dead people that kind of belong to places too. They might belong in your house. Maybe they built it. They love to be hanging around in there. Do they live there forever? Are they really living there? Their presence is there. And you're able to work with them and let them know, hey, I acknowledge you and we're sharing the space. I'm alive. We're sharing the space. So I'll respect you. You respect me. Maybe you don't go in my kid's bedroom anymore. Maybe you just hang out in the kitchen corner or something, your favorite place where you used to look out the window. You're allowed to be over there. So yeah, there's all different types of different dead people. There's some dead people that don't know they're dead yet, right? They're roamers. They're stuck here. They haven't crossed over yet. Yeah, there's and dead people, that square on the disco ball. A lot of times how they were in life is how they are in death. And a lot of us we're all evolving, right? I have two things to say about this. They really do have their still personality that they had over there. They might be sassy, right? I'm thinking of my mom. They might be sassy. They may be, a little strict, still kind of sharing that little bit of the ego, right? But also, they also have this side to them that is, since they're crossed over, they do have this higher connection. And it does vary. I want to say it varies. But for example, my mom would be sassy. My mom would be telling me, do this, don't do that, or along those lines. But there's this other side of her that will be like, I'm by your side no matter what you're doing. And I am proud of you no matter what, right? There's those two sides. So those are the different types of dead people. And then let's talk about the benefits of mediumship, right? What's the benefit of you being able to receive information from your dead randomly, or the benefit of speaking to the dead as a medium, right? So the benefits of you having your random experiences, and if that's where you want to stay, fan-freaking-tastic for you. And I'm happy that your loved one is sending you signs and you're finding them and you're finding comfort, right? Because that's a big thing, is comfort. But the benefits of developing that mediumship is you're going to have this way stronger connection than just receiving those signs. You're going to be able to get maybe a full sentence, right? Or the visions, like I tell you, you'll be able to be like, okay, call in my late husband and be like, what steps should I take? And literally have him show you like a vision, or literally he actually comes through with songs, which is pretty bizarre because I've never actually had that, where I'll hear like a sentence from a song, and then I'll go look it up, and the song will actually have like a whole bigger message for me. And I'm just like, wow, it's I've been a medium for a while, but let me tell you what, it never gets old, because it is so shocking and so indescribable, right? You can't make some of this shit up, where you're like I'm telling my husband one time, I'm like, you're literally watching my whole life right now. Like one of the songs, I don't remember the name of the song, but it was like feeling good, like I should, walking around the neighborhood. And it was about, everybody falls down, but they get back up. And it was literally like, I was so sad about his grief, but I had started walking. That's when I had started walking. And it was like how he was saying, I see you walking around the neighborhood and you're going to be feeling good, like you should. And I was just like, how does he know? Well, then he's watching me the whole damn time. But so it gives you this feeling of I'm not alone. And that's just me. So imagine you as a medium being able to give that comfort, like I get a little teary-eyed, to somebody else that is going through this grief, and to give them validation. I get goosebumps. That those are usually validation bumps, right? That's what I call those. To give them validation that their loved one is okay, number one, that their loved one is crossed over, that their loved one is watching over them, that their loved one is supporting them, that they are not alone, no matter how long it's been since the passing. Do you know how much that helps someone heal from their grief, or at least, I don't even want to say heal from their grief, because I don't think there's an end to it, but transmute their grief, transform their grief, live with their grief in a better way, right? Again, you're getting way more in-depth information when you're developing this mediumship and this ability. And then you have that ability to counsel others, because you're, again, giving them that comfort, supporting their grief. Finding missing items after death. Boy, this is a big one that came through for me when I was doing a lot of mediumship readings. Was people would want to know, where did grandpa leave the will? Or where did grandpa leave these papers? Or I lost, my mom's wedding ring. And I wish she could tell me where I put it. Finding missing items was always a big thing. Or, because a lot of times if there's not a will too, the family gets all amongst themselves and they want to find things. So it's great for you to develop into it. Doing health readings, right? Doing health readings, because then their past loved ones can come and help you do a scan and even tell you, tell her to stop eating tomatoes, or, they'll give you keys. Remember, Grandpa George was allergic to tomatoes, and like, they'll tell you this stuff, or, warn her about this. And then obviously we're not medical professionals. So we would just be like, this is information that I heard. I'm not a medical physician. If you want to go like look into this, go do that. Warnings, right? Getting a warning, like you're going too fast in your life, slow down. Or be careful next week in your car. They do that. I feel like you're supposed to be careful, or grandma says she sees you driving too recklessly. So I did at this point want to talk to you guys about free will, though, because there is free will. We have free will. And even if we wanted to know a health reading, say we wanted to have a health reading, but our soul's journey, our soul decided that it wanted to perish in a certain way, like you made yourself an agreement before you, should I say incarnated, before you started having this human experience, you made some sort of agreement with your disco ball self that you wanted to learn this lesson in this lifetime. And so the dead people can't necessarily stop that from happening, right? They can't, because of your free will. They can't give you that warning, or they can't give that information. Either that or you just won't receive it. They wouldn't even bring it up. So there's that. And then when we are talking about mediumship too, this podcast is about talking to the dead. But when we're talking about mediumship, we're talking about going further into, deeper, doing like aliens, being able to communicate with aliens or channel aliens, being able to, with angels. Obviously, angels comes with mediumship big time. And, angels can communicate as well. Like you'll see all the angel numbers, right? All you guys see the angel numbers, or you'll find a feather, different colored feathers at different times. That's mostly angels. It can be a past loved one / dead person, but a lot of times it's the feathers, and the colors mean something. But anyway, that's another topic. And then light beings, right? So like multidimensional beings. You could start working with those types of energies. It's really quite amazing. Well, I did want to record this podcast for you guys to kind of clear up why talking to the dead is not evil. It's not bad. It's not wrong. You're not breaking God's rule, right? And just like learning to drive a car, learning to develop this ability, you're going to learn when you're driving a car, where the brakes are, where the blinkers are, so you can warn other people, where the brakes are, where you could stop, how you're the one that puts the gas on and you're the one that's in control, right? You're going to learn all that when you're developing, and all the safety measures. You're learning how to put your seatbelt on when you're driving a car. So you're going to learn all these different things when you're developing mediumship. You're not just going to dive in and get possessed. You see what I'm saying? So, did I talk a little bit more about the possession, right? Because, like a possession would be more like an attachment, right? More of an attachment of a lower level energy. That's not necessarily like a dead person possessing you. It would be like a lower level energy, or it could be a dead person that was really, really, really lower level in life and is not like evolving on the other side as much as they should, right? That like we're all in different dimensions even right now. That's why all of us are having different human experiences, right? If we're talking about health or abundance or, relationships, every level is a different dimension. So same thing with like lower level energies, right? They are wanting to feed off of the light. So do people get possessed sometimes? Well, yeah, there's movies about it. But when we learn, and this is why I'm so passionate about teaching about this, because whether you want to become a medium or you want to learn about this realm, I think both of those things are important. Learning about this realm is important so that you can navigate your human experience and not be scared, right? Anyways, that's the end of that whole possession talk. Right? That's more of an attachment. And then if the person continues to be in that lower level position, the attachment can get, deeper and deeper. And then you start taking on some of the personality traits. That's a whole other podcast episode. But again, wanted to talk to you about the topic of it's not evil. It's okay. There are safe ways to do it. It's not wrong. You're not breaking the rules. You're not going to go to hell. All right. So I'm sending you guys all love. I hope you love this episode. If you did, please leave us a 5-star review and share this with your friends.